Pun, it is time for a segment that we call What Say Lou? So I'm going to say something, and then we'll see what Lewis has to say about it. Are you ready?
Yes, sir.
Here we go. They play each other on the opening Monday night of the season. If I said J.J. McCarthy actually has more to prove than the much dissected Caleb Williams does in week one, what say Lou?
I agree with you. Look, he only played one game last year before he got hurt. I believe it's against the Las Vegas Raiders in the preseason. He's only played in 2 series this preseason, and then Kevin O'Connell put him on ice, which I agreed with, because I think, look, they have seen now through 2 off seasons what this young man looks like. They believe that they have got it going on with him, but he hasn't done it for an extended period of time, even in the preseason, let alone the regular season. So yeah, he's got a ton to prove, because Minnesota, to me, is going to be one of the favorites to win the North.
They have a lot of really good weapons, don't they?
No question about it. He needs time with Justin Jefferson.
Well, Adam Schefter literally knew our rundown this morning, so he knew we'd be talking about the Vikings, and moments ago he just tweeted that the Vikings have completed a trade in which they have received Adam Thielen. So Adam Thielen has been traded to the Vikings. This from Adam Schefter, and I was told it in my ear literally as you were talking. So that just happened. So that is another weapon for this Minnesota team that feels completely loaded. They'll have no Jordan Addison for the first few weeks.
Yep.
Now they bring in a guy in Adam Thielen. Maybe he helps bridge that gap.
Yeah, I think Thielen helps on the field, but I think he also really helps with that locker room, because I think that he's a guy who understands what it's like in Minnesota. Has been there for a while. Has been through some ups and downs, and they have a good thing going there. And I think the more veteran guys who are hungry at the end of their career, that know what it means to be a champ, or know what it means to work and get close, it helps that locker room out.
Thielen played for the Vikings in 2013 through 2022. Extremely productive through a lot of those years. Obviously, an older player now. Harry, your thoughts on this Minnesota offense and J.J. McCarthy and all of the dissection that we have done all this time about Caleb Williams. Here's J.J. McCarthy, who's got, I think, just as much to show on the road in the opener in Chicago.
Yeah, he's in the best situation of any first or second year quarterback, and all he has to do, in my opinion, is not go out there and mess it up. You have playmakers all across the board. You're going to have a top offensive line. You have Aaron Jones in the backfield. You're going to have a solid defense. Go out there and make the plays. Now, this is a player who also played for Jim Harbaugh. So I'm putting extreme pressure on him, because you know what it's like to be a pro before you even got to the National Football League, being at Michigan, playing under the tutelage of Jim Harbaugh.
See, you know what the thing I love about J.J. McCarthy, when you listen to him talk, you read about him, you have the coaches who talk about him. But Coach Harbaugh said he's the best quarterback in the University of Michigan's history. Now, that's a pretty big statement, and I know he's prone to some hyperbole, but I kind of see where he's going with this. Because if you listen to the coaching staff up there in Minnesota, look, there's no way that you would set a young man like this down, regardless of the injury risk that you may be subjecting him to, especially coming off of that meniscus injury, unless you felt as though he had a very unique level of maturity. Especially now, again, he didn't have a veteran backup behind him at the time that he sat him down, until now they have Carson Wentz up there. They really, really believe in this guy, and I get that same feeling the more and more you research about J.J.
By the way, before everyone loses their collective mind and saying, didn't Tom Brady go to Michigan? Harbaugh meant in college.
In college, not in the pros.
And McCarthy was the first Michigan quarterback to go in round 1 since Harbaugh did in the late 80s.
Right.
So we will see. Which of these, the over-under on wins for the Vikings at ESPN Bet Sportsbook is 8.5. It's a team that won 14 games last year. They're begging you to take the over.
And I think that's attractive, because it's the uncertainty around J.J. McCarthy. And if you believe what you're hearing out of camp, and players know, coaches know, we'll say some nonsense about a guy who's not playing well to try to instill some confidence, but there is no joking. It happens in practice, then it happens in a game. Yep. No one plays, very rarely, is someone bad in practice and then shows up in balls, and someone's balling in practice and then shows up as a Hall of Fame quarterback. That doesn't happen. So the things that you're hearing out there feel real.
Okay, so again, that's the news that we literally got whilst having this conversation. Adam Thielen, so productive in Minnesota for so many years, is headed back. Let's go back to what say Lou, and one that I would describe myself as terrified of. If I said I am scared Aaron Rodgers is going to go scorched earth against the New York Jets in week 1, what say Lou?
I'd say this is very likely, and I could see this happen. Look, we talked here, what was it, March, February, about the fact that these two entities needed each other, that me and Aaron Rodgers needed the Steelers needed Aaron Rodgers just to play football. It sounds like, from people who are on the field, from people who are at practices, meaning Jalen Ramsey talked about it. Our own Ryan Clark talked about it when he was there at training camp. This guy looks loaded for bear. He looks like the old Aaron Rodgers from a throwing the football perspective. No, he's not the same athlete. Yes, he's older. Yes, he's had a ruptured Achilles. So we're not expecting him to look like Lamar Jackson. We get all that. But as far as his cerebral capability and his ability to throw the football and lead this offense, I think he's going to light it up. And I think Pittsburgh, the fans in the surrounding area and people nationally who go, man, we don't need that headache with Aaron Rodgers. Why don't we get him out of here? Why did we sign this guy? I think you're going to be sitting there going, oh, I see why we signed him.
Could be. Obviously, there'll be a lot more hype when he plays Green Bay, which I think is week 8 or somewhere in the middle. But against the Jets, that also feels like a pretty special game for him.
If they can block, if they can protect him. Aaron Glenn's going to play a lot of man coverage behind. It's hard with his quarterback as accurate as Aaron Rodgers to cover receivers and man the whole game. If they can protect him, he can put up big numbers. If they can't, it's going to get ugly.
What do you think?
I think he's also going to provide Arthur Smith to have less gray hairs. Think about all the quarterbacks that Arthur Smith has had since he took over as head coach for the Atlanta Falcons and then last year with the Pittsburgh Steelers. He's going to allow Aaron Rodgers to be able to do things and run that play action, but I do agree with Nick. If they can't block in the run game, if they can't protect Aaron Rodgers, it's not going to matter.
All right, one more for you. If I were to say, and I've heard a lot of people suggesting this is a possibility, that Russell Wilson and the Giants are going to shock the Washington Commanders week 1. What say Lou?
I'm just going to say that's not likely. I think Jaden Daniels, look, I think, if the question would have been, what's the likelihood of Jackson Dart starting by week 3, I would have been like, okay, that's a little bit more likely.
Yeah.
But I think Washington is for real. I think what Jaden has brought to that area, and Nick, you lived out in that area, you know how real it is. This guy is raising everyone's level. He's getting people to play above and beyond what they ever thought they could do themselves because of the fact that he is such a unique, transcendent talent. They've upgraded the offensive line. His boy is back in town now, and Terry McLaurin. The running back position, I think, is going to be even more explosive. Remember the name, Corey Bill Krosky-Merritt. Remember that name. He's the rookie who's going to light it on fire in Washington. Defensively, you talked about the fact that they need to make sure they are stout against the run. This team's for real. And Washington has something to be excited about for the first time in a long time.
Giants are going to have a pretty scary defense, though, right? I think
they are.
That Giant defense, that pass rush, Abdul Carter and everything.
Lawrence and Thibodeau, that front is going to be a problem. But, I mean, if they can protect it, and we saw with Jaden Daniels' ability to understand protections in athleticism, I think that D-line is going to be a bigger problem for other quarterbacks. It's going to be a problem for Jaden Daniels, but not nearly as much as it could be.
But the thing about Jaden Daniels, he forces you to play 11-on-11 football. And that's the kicker. He led the Commanders in rushing last year with 891 yards. So that component of it all, I love.
I think I've said it many times here. I think the Giants are going to be much, much better.
They will be.
Their record may not necessarily reflect that based on how tough the schedule is. They open with Washington and then the Cowboys. Coming up, first take.